Hello.
Okay, so we decided to do a self-interview. There's the camera, I think.
Okay.
We decided to do a self-interview. We've done maybe 4 interviews so far, and they all went super well. But if you've been checking out our blog, mugsandpockets.com, we made a whole post about it. Like, we've made all the interviews we want to do that answer the basic questions, like, how'd you come up with the name Mugs and Pockets? And where did you guys meet? And all of that. Like, that's answered. You can watch those interviews and you can, read the blog post and all the other ones. We wanted to ask each other questions, so we came up with 10 questions for each other. I haven't seen his. He hasn't seen mine.
You're right.
So this is going to be like a real interview with who knows what happens. And then at the end, there's actually one question that was asked of us on IG via DMs. We were like, send any questions you have. And one person did, so we'll answer that at the end.
Nice.
So since I've been talking, how about you start with your first question for me?
Awesome. Okay. Number 1.
Okay.
As a producer and vocalist, how important is it for you to chase a song?
Define chase a song.
Chase a song meaning, like, let's say you have an idea of what the song is, or maybe the idea pops up, right? And how important for you is it in that setting for you to chase it, like, in order to make it happen?
Okay.
Like, what's in your head?
I got it. I guess I would say that I don't see it or picture it as it was shaking the camera.
My bad.
I don't in my head it's not chasing a song. I'm always responding to whatever's happening. So whatever piece of music or little sample or drum thing that's happening, I feel like I respond to it or add to it or work around it. So it's always that kind of relationship. So it's only important if it makes sense. If I'm doing the song and I kind of feel it's like not happening, I'm not gonna force it.
Right.
I'm totally okay with just like throwing it away, starting a new one or going to a different one. I usually work on 3 or 4 songs or beats at the same time. And sometimes I'm like, I'm done with this one, I move on to the next one. So even though they're very different, that's why they're always kind of like in the same, they still work with each other because I have a similar frame of mind because I like switch. Yeah. So it's like, yes, I do finish my songs, and I do, if I feel like there's something missing, you know, I'll throw it your way to finish, or we talk about like, can we get a musician on it? We'll specifically think like this needs, you know, drums, like a live drummer or hand drums, or this needs saxophone or whatever. So yeah, I want to finish it, but if it's not working it, I'm not forcing. That's the answer.
I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
My turn. Question number 1. Okay. If you knew that there was no audience, let's say that you're secluded somewhere and the music you're making is only for you, would it sound any different than the music you make right now? And obviously I'm not talking about collaborations like this one. Right. But just like your music, and you're making music somewhere secluded, no one will ever hear it. Would it sound different than the music you're making, knowing that someone will hear it?
I have a feeling that I would create, knowing who I am, I have a feeling that I would try to create music that would make people appear. Like because I feel like if I was ever to just speak it, like, you know, just to be verbal, like I would do it for the sake of someone else besides myself hearing it. And I feel like a lot of the twists and turns that I kind of put into like the raps already, like I would probably do a little bit more. Like I think it would be a little more intense I wouldn't pay so much attention to structure. I think it would pretty much sound like a drum solo, going in and out of rhythms and things like that, and then different patterns, because those things really excite me, and I understand them, and because I would understand them at the point that they're happening, like I wouldn't care much more, you know what I'm saying? But roughly, I think they would sound similar, yeah.
But like as a calling for people to come forth.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
I like that question.
Okay.
What's that?
I have 9 more. Okay, next.
Okay. Possessing multiple musical talents. Do you ever feel like one skill influences the other? And B, are there any of your skills that get boxed in by your other skills?
So, to answer B, I don't feel like anything's boxed in, really. Okay. But as a general response, they're all the same.
Okay.
So it's more like whichever art form I feel like working through at that point, you know?
Yeah.
And it's something we talk about a lot, and I talk about like all the art forms have the same kind of like elements, you know, the idea of melody is, or something you follow is in everything. So like in singing, it's a melody. In art, there might be like a main line that, you know, as an artist, you want to draw people's eye to this, you know, to this shape or whatever. Same with like, even if it's a drum ensemble, there usually will be a solo or something that will take that attention of how it travels. And then same idea, you know, structure is in everything. How you structure a painting, how you structure dance choreography, and how you put on stage, same as structure of a song. So it's more like, I feel like as an artist that does many things, once you understand those things, then all you're learning is that particular art form or that particular style or that particular culture's expression, because the music is universal. Like the you know, the feeling is universal. The building up of something, and then how you end things, how you start things, that's in everything. Even if I guess a lot of artists miss that part.
Right.
You know, it's like we talk about that too, like it still has to be a song.
Right.
You know, but sometimes it's not. But anyway, yeah, so to me they're kind of all the same thing. And if I focus on music for too long and I'm starting to miss dancing, then I have to switch. It's very hard to do them all simultaneously because there's not enough hours in the day, and sometimes you need to like really delve into it and be in the thick of it to progress it. So sometimes, you know, it's like production and just making beats for 2 months, and that's like kind of where I'm stuck. And then, you know, I'll get a song like, oh, can you sing on this? And then I switch to the singing mode, and then I might get stuck there. Or I might be like, oh, I haven't, you know, gone to dance class in a while. I tried. Yeah. You can only balance it so much.
That's what's up.
Anyway, question 2.
Yes.
Okay. Very similar question, and that's just kind of how this works here.
Hey, exactly.
And like I said, we haven't seen these questions before, but my question is, what skills from painting do you use in your music making? So it's like, yeah, same.
That's incredible.
Okay, I know. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So what skills in painting?
Ooh. From painting.
From painting.
In music.
Okay. Okay, definitely line work. Like the line work that I do in my paintings are basically the types of lines that I will try to perform in something like, I gotta get over the hill, the touchable, I'm just calling the few discreditable, like just connecting things that would almost, in my mind, create like a solid black line. But the thickness of that line will differ. You know what I'm saying? So that can be done by way of volume, inflection. That can also be done by way of like even how I pronounce a word as well. Yeah. But yeah, like as far as colors are concerned, oh my goodness. Because now that I work with you, like colors can be like harmonies. You know what I'm saying? The colors could be, especially the way that way that you make beats. And how, okay, here's a great one. Like how I kind of go in and out of the beat, right? That for me is like my blending technique in art. You know, like how I'll blend different colors together. In and out of the beat, meaning like if you take things away from the beat and give it like space or breathing room and then get back into like the heavier beat. Exactly. And then on top of that, like there is the negative space and that I'll use in art, and the negative space that I'll use in my music is like, you know, again, like it's like filling in a color just so that you can see where it is that I'm starting from and then like where it is that I end up. You know, so if you come back like off of the piece, if I'm up on it too close and then I back up and I see the piece for what it is, or I'm seeing it how I would like to present it to the audience, I have to make sure that I'm not doing too much of the, you know what I mean? Too much of the like rapidy rap stuff. Yeah. And I'm incorporating other things that allow people to hear the song and just like they would see the piece. Yeah. So just like I was saying earlier about like how it's all the same, like when you were talking about like richness or it's making me think of like concentrated pigment, right? As opposed to like a watercolor, like you're concentrating here. That's where like I could do like very thick, close harmony. That's almost like the notes are kind of, you know, pushing against each other because it's a little bit of dissonance or whatever. And then like when you make like very sparse, like harmonies, like from super high to low and then lots of space in between, that's almost like a watercolor, like lots of... Oh, that's dope. Yeah. And then when you were talking about like rapidy raps as a line, like I was imagining, I don't know what that style of art is called, but it's like the everything's pointillism. Pointillism. Yeah. Everything's made out of dots. So it's almost like those dots getting bigger or smaller or further apart. It's just, it's so similar. It's so similar. Incredible. Anyway. Damn, whose turn is it? Your turn. I think it's my turn, yeah. Question 3. Question 3. All right. How would you describe your journey in hip hop versus trip hop? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm very ready to hear this. Yeah, one. I mean, there's definitely overlap because if you think about trip hop, you know, even though that was, you know, in England or whatever, where the birth of it, pretty much down yonder, they were so influenced by hip hop. So there's really no trip hop without hip hop. A lot of times when people say like, people don't know what trip hop is, the way I try to explain is like, think about like the kind of like slower head noddy hip hop beats, but with singing on it instead of rapping, right? Yeah. So there's so much overlap, and I guess when I moved to the States, when you listen to the radio, you know, that was like Queen Latifah, UNITY, Tupac, Biggie. That was kind of like what was on the radio. So as a, you know, a teenager, you're very affected by what you're hearing. And so it was just like so much a part of every day and part of school and environment and friends that was kind of like, that was just like the popular music. This was what, and it was finding stuff like randomly finding Talib Kweli and high-tech tape. Like, I don't know how that got into my hands, where I was just like, oh, this is different. And then when I was in college, when in Chicago, Pugs Adams came and performed live,
you know, I kind of got to see the Chicago underground style, and then starting to work with Philip Morris, because I was a classical singer at the time in college, and I saw Philip Morris as an MC rapping along with like a string ensemble. So there was so much cool stuff going on in Chicago that I was just like, okay, I love it, but now I can see where I could possibly actually fit into it, you know? And I feel like trip hop kind of provided that for me, because of the style of singing I do. You didn't really hear that in hip hop. Hip hop hooks were more derived from kind of like the soul, the funk, bigger, louder, where I had like this, at the time, what I was thinking of, like a very thin soprano high voice. Like you don't really, I'm like, I'm not sure where I fit in, even though like this is the music I listen to, but I don't, I'll sing along with like Mariah Carey, but it's not the same, you know? So when I heard trip hop, when I heard the first like Massive Attack, Portishead, it let me kind of like find my place, but also it was hella moody, you know? And throughout that time, I was dealing with, you know, a lot of ups and downs, depression and things like that. And I feel like that's where a lot of people found their home, to be like, this music understands me. And I think it's like why this is important to me, to like provide this for people now, because you don't really have real trip hop now. You have like a poppy version of it, but it's not the version where you can like, you don't feel it understands what you're going through. So I've always wanted to be more in the hip hop scene, but I couldn't find my place, because it's like me being like, hey, I want to rap. People are like, well, that's cute. Okay. Anyway, my turn. 3. What's the most important lesson your parents taught you?
Wow. Okay. In the beginning, it was definitely tell me what's going on in your life. So if I was like outside and things like this, you know what I'm saying? It'd be like, I would have to tell moms and pops like what was going on, who was who, you know, who I was playing with, all this stuff. So it was like, it was kind of like having some sort of accountability for, you know what I'm saying, my whereabouts, you know what I'm saying, and who I was getting along with. Even though I was telling them about it, like for me, it was like that lesson of like, if I hang around with this person, am I going to want to tell that to my parents? You know what I mean? So it was like, I had a really keen sense about who I should be around. Now, when my mom's was passing, the biggest thing that I also learned was, at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like, did you live the way that you wanted to live? And also, like, can you pass on what it is that you've accepted into your life's work? You know what I'm saying? So when I saw my mom's, you know, going through what she was going through while she was passing, she knew exactly who to give what. You know what I mean? This goes here, this goes there, this goes here. You know, and then lastly, we even found out that she had secret accounts that she had made for like all of the kids. And this was her personal project, so that when she passed, like almost every kid got, you know, because she had just started. And this is like after, you know, debt was gone and stuff like this. So I think almost every kid got like $500 or something. So like this.
Cousins and just like extended family.
And it was just like, that was just her own personal project.
What an incredible project to have.
And it was, exactly. And so at the end of the day, it was also the I want to say like the third lesson, the biggest lesson was, don't only live for yourself. Live for, you know, someone else, many people, you know. You got more than yourself to take care of. Once you take care of yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There's more people to take care of.
Right.
So
yeah.
Yeah, those would be the
it's like
lessons.
Sometimes like taking care of other people is making sure you're okay so they don't have to take care of you.
Yes.
You know, and it's like we talk about that a lot as far as just like going to the gym and working out and eating healthy, because it's like you're really doing that to make sure that, you know, the people around you then don't have to quit their jobs and move in with you and take care of you and carry you to the bathroom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, that's kind of like,
wow.
Wow. If you want to do something for them, make sure that you can take care of yourself. Anyway.
Yeah.
Next.
I like that.
Your turn. I think 4.
Number 4, yeah. Is there a Scarlet Monk signature beat, vocal line, and or tag? Because there's sometimes when you're like, or you'll
I think it would be more the
That's my shit. I love it.
Definitely not beat or I feel like I said with, I think was the first question, like I respond to what's there. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like things are never out of thin air. Like I respond to my environment, which is why I have to make sure to keep the right environment. Because I'm just like, I will respond to what's going on around me. So whatever the music's doing, whatever the, you know, instruments or whatever is doing, that's what I respond to. So that flexibility, I think, and that responsiveness is a part of like that Scarlet Monk or monk thing, because it's like the idea of a monk of always just kind of like observing and absorbing and questioning and seeing how it all fits into the grand scheme of the world, zooming out, like all of that. So like the responsive, but that does happen a lot where I'm recording and like I'll say something where like almost in my head is like that's directed at someone, or like I'm thinking about it, like, and it's like
right.
That does happen a good amount, especially in the solo album.
It's my favorite.
Anyway, so that's my thing.
That's dope.
Number 4 for me. Okay, this is an important one that I want to hear. What is the most common trap that you think young or aspiring MCs fall into? What are some things they overlook that would help them grow their craft?
Okay. Young MCs. Okay. For me, young MCs, a lot of them are very influenced by the status quo. And some of them aren't taught or aren't even challenged to the point of saying like, hey, this person that you listen to, like, that's the wrong way to do it. Even though that's like, you know what I'm saying, that's very biased, you know, way of doing things, you know what I'm saying? But, and, you know, very highly opinionated, but it isn't even challenged in that way. And I think for us, like growing up, you know, for me at least, like there was so much challenge, you know what I'm saying, that you would face as an MC, because first of all, like we had this Fat Gold Chain reference, right? And you couldn't get the Fat Gold Chain by way of buying the chain. You couldn't do that. And if you did, like it would get snatched. And there was consequence behind what it is that you did. So if you weren't on point with your craft, the community would make sure. And it almost didn't matter whether it was like morally right know what I'm saying, or not. But it definitely allowed you to have some tough skin and give you more of a respect for what it is that you were doing. So the value that people place on their craft, I think, is by default is a little less, you know what I'm saying? Like, simply because there's no real consequence, you know what I'm saying, for it. Like, for instance, if you mess up on a take now, you know what I mean? Like, you can just, you know, record over that thing.
Many times.
Right, exactly. And even still, like, when you go to do that, some folks, they've been getting told yes their whole lives, you know what I'm saying, as far as their career is concerned, that and those are the people that they keep in their crews, that you know, the one take, you know, one hitter quitter is like, you know, that's the one. And I think what folks, the young MCs mess up on the most is they don't go back and try to outdo themselves. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
because now that you got a little studio and things like that, like you can go back and really like try to hone in on these different skills and get kind of wild with it. But
yeah,
I think that, you know, we've become very minimal when it comes to putting out like best takes, you know.
And that is really apparent then when you take that to the stage, because then you have one take.
Yep.
Or you're supposed to, because obviously we see people like run that back a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And even, you know, when we perform, some of the younger kids being so confused, like they're holding their mics funny. We're like, no, we're holding the mics correctly.
Right.
The reason, you know, it kind of got normalized to muffle the microphone and hold it on the head, right, is because it muffles your lyrics. So if you mess up, people don't really know that you messed up.
Right.
Not to mention that it's already, your lyrics are you know, playing in the background.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, just because you can get that take after the 15th time, you know, in the studio where you're comfortable and like you don't have to worry about, you know, the monitors and feedback and people and all of that. It's just like, then the live shows, it's like, then you don't have, you can't handle it on your own. Then you need like 18 people on stage with you to anyway.
That's like your part. Yeah, the prop work. No, for real. So there's, you know, I would definitely say, you know, like to value your craft enough that you can challenge yourself to be better in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, and absolutely. I think that will give you that much more of a range even for when they step on stage.
Yeah. Okay. Next.
Yeah. All right.
Number 5.
Yeah, number 5.
I believe.
Okay. Wow. Here we go. That, you know, being synonymous again, or in sync. So how do you feel your sound changes from studio to the stage?
My type of voice and my type of singing, it doesn't work in all stage environments, or at least not with the minimal amount of preparation or sound checking that you get with most shows. So I think one of the many parts why it took so long for my career to get to a good place is because my type of voice is not necessarily catered to or understood when I go to perform. Because it's light. I don't, you know, necessarily push or yell or try to make it as loud as possible, you know, as a default.
Yeah.
You know, there's time and place depending on what I'm singing or whatever, but a lot of it is like, it works best in an intimate setting. And the fact that I work with fat beats a lot. That it's like me trying to get through that on stage. You know, it takes know-how, and my mic has to be up enough for me to get through. And what happens all of the time is I'll just get so much feedback because they'll turn my mic up really high, and then it's like the space is not ready for it, or the engineer is not ready for it. Like when we perform together, it's like my mic has to be higher than yours,
right?
Unless we're both rapping, because then it's, you know, even then you're a little bit louder than I am.
Yeah.
But it's a different type of singing. You know, my singing is more like jazz combo, where it's like, you know, you hear the nuances, you hear all of these things, but since I love working with electronic beats, that's, you know, always been the thing where it's a great source of frustration.
Yeah.
And then, you know, not hearing myself in the monitors and being, you know, it's like concerned, because it's like I will get out of tune when I can't hear myself, because then I'm hearing, like I said, I respond. So I hear all of a sudden in the live setting, there's so many different frequencies that are higher. I will then naturally respond to that, because everything I do is by ear. And so like when the frequencies are off, or like, you know, all I hear is bass in my monitor, or like it's not even, I get frustrated. So it's like, and that's, you know, usually when it's like the type of shows where you just kind of show up and go, you know, so it's like, it's a big part for me, like waiting to get to a point where I get that time and that know-how and that understanding as a performer to be like, my voice is lighter. The type of singing I do is not the standard pop singing. And so I need people who understand that, so that I get to, so that shines, and like I'm able to communicate with the audience. I don't want to be on stage the whole time being like, I can't.
Yeah. The worst.
Oh yeah, so that's that. It's a bit of a sore spot, as you can see. Anyway, next. Okay. So we, as Mugs and Pockets, we hear a lot of stories of people being very affected by our music. People tell us that they're listening to our album and they have to pull their car over to the side of the road. We hear about many tears, about feeling our music in random parts of their body. The music, like, compelling them to have these big, thorough conversations with their partners, their parents. Like, what do you think that we are putting into this music that has this effect on people?
Well, I think a big part of this, first and foremost, is honesty. For instance, there was a track by the name of Art of Chill, and when I went to go record this, I went to do, you know, me, like, or at least that perspective that I have of myself when I go to perform. You know what I mean? And I got told from her, that's not it.
That's not it.
Right. And I took to it, like, you know, I take to it like I always take to it. I'm like, oh, word.
I've told that to MCs before, and they did not take it well.
Right.
He was like the first one who was like, oh.
And if
it's not it, it's not it.
Right. Exactly.
It's not my fault.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's like, it's, you know, it's for the song. And
there's
then
a
you're
vision.
in that bubble. You're in that bubble as far as, the, you know, the song is concerned. So, yeah, like, I took to that very, very well. But I was also like, well, damn, like, if that's not it, then, man, what is? And the beginning part of it, it says, there's nowhere to run when you should be enough. Right? And the whole song is like, you know, be who you are. You know what I mean? It's like simplify. And so I'm like,
he was doing too much.
I was doing too much. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, cool. Let me just speak to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I began to do that. And even as I began to do that, I began to cry.
And why? Because what happened?
Oh, yeah. So basically, my mom, who had passed, like, I saw this woman in the booth that I was recording in. And I still, here was the craziest part. As an artist, the artist side of me was like, oh, this is the take. Oh, this is the one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Myself, you know, me was like, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to get this feeling out.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like, but then also like you were in my head as well. You know what I'm saying? And it was almost like, go through this moment. Like, do your craft and go through this moment and get to the end to see what actually happens. Not just for the take of it, but for the sake of like having some sort of self-control and visualizing what's happening to you, for you, and then, you know, what the outcome of that is. And I think that even though many people may not know this story, I think that type of feeling that I got is the same feeling that is put into there, because there are these instances where those things are happening, you know? And it's just very, very honest and true to like ourselves. And you can tell that there is an actual effort of like, no, I'm not going to sound cool on this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because what I was saying is like, since most of that song is me, then it's on that song, you're almost like entering my realm, right? That more kind of trip hoppy thing, which I feel I know through and through, like that's where I live. And so it's like, there you're coming into my realm. So it's like, I wanted you to kind of, you know, match the energy of the thing.
Exactly.
If you came in too rappy, then like that kind of took it to, you know, you hear these songs like on the radio all the time. It'll be just like the singer, and then it's like, okay, here comes the rap first. But does it really make sense, or is it just like, you know, that's the bigger name that now it's like, oh, this person has a song with this person. But like for that one, like I cared about that song a lot, and I was just like, like listen through the whole song and listen like what frequency I'm on, and then match that while still being yourself. You know, and that's a skill and a half.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you've practiced in a different way. You know what I mean? Like if and you know, a lot of rappers become actors because that's essentially what they're doing, is they're acting out like their raps, you know, on tape, right? And so for this particular one, there was no act like that could be done. And like as things gradually went on, you know what I mean? It was like I learned even more from that like instance that I started putting it into more of what was happening. So even when I would do like some faster stuff, or, you know, there was just that element that I made sure that I was paying attention to, that was like, okay, you're not just, you know, super rapper or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like you are you are the person who, you know, whose mom's passed. You are the person whose dad is still going through it, you know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying? Like, so it was like those things were being handled. But it was also like, I get to show people and myself how it is that I handle, you know, handle the world, having a skill like this. And I do it a lot in my painting, but that's something that I didn't necessarily take from the painting world and put it into the music world, you know?
And that's how, each song needs something different. So that's kind of how each song gets to be complete sounding, but different from the others, but still makes sense because we're very genuine. So no matter what facet of us you get, it's still of us. Exactly. So there's always a common kind of thread.
Lastly, hold up, before we move on, there was 80s game. This is like recently too. You know, somebody's crying over 80s game, right? And it's mainly, you know, there's no beat really there. I mean, there is. There's that internal beat, definitely. But it's this thing for me even just sounds like colors, you know. And so what I was putting on it was that as well. But I think the way that this person was describing it was like that rhythmic nature, you know what I'm saying, that I have, as well as like the palette that she was creating, you know what I'm saying, with these sounds. Like the way that they went together was just like so perfect and so good that it was like that emotional, like joyous cry. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, like this is heaven right here. And that's how, like, truth be told, like that's exactly, when I heard that beat, when I heard what it is that she gave me, that's exactly why I wanted to rhyme on that.
Yeah, and also we get a lot more like MCs or producers or whatever. It's like when they're listening to our music, they're like, for the first time, my wife told me she likes this song. My partner told me she likes this song. My daughter loves this song. And they're just not used to kind of like the women in their lives like liking the hip hop that they actually like. You know, and they're having this kind of like bonding moment. I mean, it's so dope. Anyway, next.
All right, let's see here.
So
number 6.
Yeah.
Okay. So we know that you like to read. How do you shop for sounds in music versus how you shop for books?
Oh, that's easy. That's very easy. The books I read, they're all like escapism. Like it's just like putting myself somewhere way far away. I think when I get too far into my head with any like anxieties or feeling stuck or things being overwhelming, sometimes all I have to do is read somebody else's story and the adventure or the things that they're dealing through. A lot of times it being like in a different country, so there's like a lot of mysteries and detective things that are happening in Scotland, or they're happening in Italy, or they're happening like Cape Cod, like whatever. And so then I put myself, you know, subconsciously into their story, into their shoes. And then then when I come back to me, I have a clearer focus, or I'm more removed from my situation and I can look at it that way too. So then it's like not as overwhelming anymore. And I mean, sometimes that would get out of hand, like in my more like low points where, especially like, you know, Seattle gloominess or even like winters or whatever. Like I could just read and not do much for months. For months. Because, so there's like good and bad things about that, because good is like, I needed that. I needed time away to just kind of like be warm and safe and heal. But then, you know, it's a year later. Oh, did I just gain 15 pounds? I did. And then there's stuff to like undo, because, you know, that affects your whole body and mind, and you have a lot less energy, and just like, you know, you have to move so blood flows, oxygen flows, brain flows, you know, eating the kind of food that like is fuel for your body, as opposed to just like it all being comfy. So books for me are like, they're a wonderful thing, but like anything else, you know, you can only escape so far, you know. But sometimes I absolutely needed that because the reality, or like thinking through some things, processing things from the past, were just too much. So like, if that hit me, I would just, for the sake of my brain and my mental health, I had to remove myself because it was too much, you know. And it's just like, because of those experiences, I think like now I'm able to more have that balance. Like, yes, gym 3 times a week, go take a class that's intense, it's uncomfortable, I hate it, get it done. And then during the day, find moments where I can read for a little bit, and then, you know, make sure you do this or that, find the balance. So just so I don't go too far out of the out of the question, that's books for me. Picking sounds and music, that's the artist in me, that's the creator in me, you know. I think I thought I was going to be more of like a composer while I was still in school, you know. I didn't even know it was an option for me to be a producer. Wow. You know. So it was more like I said, the way I do songs is just responding. So it's like whatever sound I find that like gives me a response. Yeah. Ooh, it's a curiosity. It's like, oh, how can I, whatever. And that's why like a lot of my beats or patterns or things that they don't usually work for people, it's because like once I find that sound or phrase or whatever, then I just work around that. And it might not be the typical thing, as if like the drum pattern was there and then you put instruments over it to fit that. Right. I sometimes start with that little thing that interests me and then work around it. Yeah. So it just depends. So for me, that is just like, I try to make it more of like a playground where I just do stuff. Yeah, yeah. And not to take myself seriously, because sometimes like I do chuck it. It's like that's crap. Okay, next. Yes. Okay, number 6. As far as your music craft, what are you currently focusing on to get better at? Because, you know, everybody, no matter how good, you're always still working on something, lifelong student. What are you focusing on? What are you trying to get better at?
All right, so breath control is always like a #1 thing for me. To be a fish, you know what I'm saying, of the air, like, is a #1 thing for me. I always want to go the longest, you know what I'm saying, without taking a breath.
And how are you doing that?
The way I'm doing that is I'm exercising at least 3 or 4 times. Well, we do it every day, you know what I'm saying? I'm doing something every day. But the way that I'm going into it is like I'm actually doing gym class for myself, you know what I mean? At least two or 3 times a week. And while I'm in there, I've learned the lesson of what true rest is, you know what I mean? And also like working to get better, not just working to get it done, you know what I'm saying? Working to get better. So that process has everything to do with like putting it into your lifestyle, you know what I mean? So for me, the workout has become like something that I get really, really excited for, you know, and prior to, like, there was no excitement for that. You know what I'm saying? But like what that's helped me to do is like, for instance, I got into jump rope like a lot, and I'm like loving that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's loving it. You know what I'm saying? So like doing that allowed me to the 2 benefits. I mean, obviously losing the weight, but then like also, as I lose the weight, I gotta make sure that voice is still thick. You know what I'm saying?
That's huge.
You know what I mean? Can't be like
can't lose your tone. Yeah.
No. So there's the proper amount of like air that I'm pushing as well. So the breathing techniques have been a little different. I'm definitely interested in the breathing techniques that you've been doing, you know what I'm saying, and been telling me about, like, with the straw and everything, you know. So yeah,
there's lots of stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. So here's what I want to start doing, and I've been kind of prepping myself for it, is sprinting. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And I've been I've basically, you decide on a little destination. This is where I'm going to sprint to.
Okay.
Boom. I'm going to walk it off.
Okay.
And then I'm going to sprint to the next destination.
Yeah, and we got a lot of like hills around here, so I know you're going to be running up the hills.
And recently I've been seeing, you know how like you start thinking about stuff and then all of a sudden you see it like on your feed. I've been seeing this all over the place. And there's this one that's got me kind of geeked, where like this guy is eating like cereal or something, some sort of grain, and he's running as fast as he can. Now the grain is just going all over the place. You know what I mean? But when I look at it, I'm like, I want to do that.
Oh my God. So new videos coming soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Swam
running and rapping.
With cereal. Swam running with cereal.
Yo, it's going to be a thing.
Okay.
It's going to be a thing.
See, that's before like we switch to your question. Yeah. That's one thing that I'm so jealous of with him. When it comes to these things that are difficult, like, the hard workouts, and he gets so excited. Yeah. And to me, it's just like, oh my God, am I going to make it through? I'm going to die. Like, completely different. To me, it's just like, even going to my regular gym classes, for the first like 6 months of it, like every time I was about to go, knowing that it's going to be a difficult class, like just like anxiety. Yeah, and him is just like, let's fucking go. Okay, next.
Loving it. All right.
Number 7.
Number 7.
And it's already been 15 minutes, so let's try to like.
Okay. So what, here we go. What mood describes your audience best?
Man, I don't even know who my audience is. Do I even have an audience? I go on that Spotify, there's like 15 of y'all listening. Okay, maybe it's like 50, but it's like, I don't know who you are. Why don't you say hello? I have no idea who listens to me. And it's just like the most random countries. I don't know what's going on. My audience, a mystery. It's like it's a cloud of mystery. I don't know who likes me.
I don't know.
Next. I have no idea. Okay, I like this one.
Yeah.
We very often talk about the fact that we do what we want. I think it's fairly obvious that it's something that's very important for artists to do. But why do you think it comes so easily to us and maybe not so easily to others?
Wow.
Because people ask us like, how did you have the audacity to do this?
Exactly.
To do this on your album? How did I have the audacity to send him 80s game with no beat behind it and he's swam? Like, how do we have the audacity to, be funny?
That's going to be one of my questions to you. I have to change that out because I gotta hear your answer to this too. So my next question is going to be that.
Okay.
All right. So the way that I feel like I think culturally, like I've seen most Black families like be very strict. You know what I'm saying? Now, me growing up with both of my parents, like both of my parents were very, very supportive, and almost anything that I would introduce to them, like they were down with. You know what I'm saying? And then I would actually do it, and that would give me the that reaction that I wanted, you know what I'm saying? Not only from them, but from myself. And I would gain the confidence to be like, okay, I can keep doing this, right? So once like we got together doing this music, and then like you would hit me with, other things, I was already so cultured in like going, you know what I'm saying, the furthest place from the standard hip hop, you know what I'm saying, thing that I was just like, oh, hell yeah, like bring that. So having the ability to do it and being well versed in like all of these different styles gave me the confidence to be like, I have the ability to do what I want. So therefore I'm going to want to do almost everything, you know?
Okay.
But yeah. Well, okay. So what about you?
What's the exact question? What gives me the audacity?
Yeah. What gives you the audacity to do what you want to do?
Yeah. Okay. Honestly, above all, I am just so tired. Because I've been doing this for a long time, and I did all the things I was supposed to do. I did, you know, I contacted the right people. I asked the right people. I had the right look. I did the right photos. I did the music videos. I tried to make myself look this way and that way while still like staying true to my craft. I did so much for so many years, and it's like, really, just the disrespect. The disrespect. You know, just because like things were different. And like, you know, the most common thing when I would present my music or my songwriting or whatever, that, you know, people always came with the, oh, I see what you're trying to do. Just do it more like this so that it fits what they understand. Right. Like over and over and over. So by the time I got, you know, to this collaboration, when you were, you know, like, I was like, I have some beats. I could send you some beats. Yeah. I didn't care. You know, like, you know what? I did,
that's dope.
Whatever. Then I'll be the singer, because I'm just used to that. Oh, really? I can't find a producer. I guess I'll produce it. Like, you don't like my singing? I'll just put out my own album with my own money and waitress for 20 years. Like, it's just like, I'm just over it. So like at that, here, do something with it or don't do. I don't.
I am very, very glad that
I'm so tired.
that happened, because the production that I get, you know what I'm saying, based off of this shit is like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, and then when nobody cares, you just kind of do the thing you want to do, which is like why I feel like I'm very true to my craft, because I kept on, you know, it's like, anyway. Wow. So that took your question, so now I can ask the next question.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Oh, maybe short and sweet, we'll see. Who is your favorite MC and why?
Ooh. Okay, that there's a bias, because for me, favorite MC, well, there's two.
Okay.
Favorite MC is AC Alone. And why? Because, because this dude seemed to be learning while he was rapping. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he didn't just find like one thing and then stick with that and then like be like, all right, cool, like let me now do my, you know, let me do my thing now. The one true thing that everybody loves. He would then switch it up and like do something completely different. And I was just like, damn, like that's dope. But you would never hear that, you know, you would never hear like the practices, if you will, you know what I'm saying, from like an MC that was trying to showcase themselves to the world. Secondly, you know what I'm saying, right above there, and it's for the exact same reasons, Scarlett Bunk.
You are so ridiculous.
Yo, she thinks, but here's the thing. You gotta be just as dope of a student as you do the teacher. Because inspiration is being an inspiration, or a spark, if you will, you know what I'm saying? This ain't the subtle sparkle. This is like, you know what I'm saying, real, like just that, you know what I mean? Idea-wise, vision-wise, having no boundaries, you know what I'm saying? Basically presenting that toward that type of freedom And then having the audacity to be like, oh, you gonna go up after me?
Yeah.
And you gonna do what? I like that. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
That is the ram getting to butt heads, you know what I'm saying, with the goat. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's, I truly, truly like that. And that's why, like, for Mugs and Pockets, it's like, I told you, it's my forever shit. Okay. It's my favorite shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next.
You know what I mean? This one over here. All right. So, how many times do you do a take, whether it's rapping, singing, right? Until you're satisfied.
Until it sounds good. Until I like it. It's very different.
Word.
I have to be kind of, it's a little different for rap. For singing, I have to have the right kind of, be in the right zone and mood, because I know that translates. You know, we know about like demo love and why sometimes those first takes are the best, because that's when you have that raw intent or that feeling that whatever those words or that music has. And then the more you try to polish it, the more mechanical but correct it becomes. So, you know, that's why outside of doing the takes, I do vocal warm-ups or exercises for things like pitch, because then when I first start and doing the first takes, the first thing that would be the problem is me not being in tune when I'm keeping this like free feeling, you know, because it's like, what do you want the perfect take to have is to have that atmosphere, but the technique, the vocal support has to be there so solid underneath that you know, it's second nature, you don't think about it. And so like that doesn't happen just by mistake, because there will be a lot of times where it's like, oh, that take is awesome, but you know, it's early in the morning, I didn't really think about vocal support. The mood is there, but it's out of tune, and you're just not, I can't use it, you know? So it's like wasting a lot of takes that way. That's something that I began to be more aware of. And so like making sure that the breath support is there. So I don't do too many takes in a row, because I know it starts getting mechanical. So if it doesn't happen, I'll come back to it the next day and make sure I'm warmed up, so that like when that feeling is there, the technique is already there underneath. And then for the new kind of like the more of the rap, or like even the singy rappy or rhythm, that rhythm, it's not as second nature as the singing rhythm.
Right.
Because like for singing, you know, I kind of have that, my favorite singer is Billie Holiday, who's kind of like behind the beat, and you just kind of make your own waves on the song. Like I'm very comfortable with doing that. That is just like what naturally comes out. Now when you start doing the rapping and like the rhythm, you have to find the pocket, right? Because then it's more like you're now the jazz musician, like the hi-hat or the whatever. You have to find where you belong. And if you don't, it doesn't matter that you got all the words out and they were in rhythm. They could have been in rhythm, but like, you know, sometimes the word has to like, even like volume wise, go in and out, you know, and you can't do every word the same volume, because then it loses the swing, or, you know. So it's just like with that, in addition to the support or like the singing or whatever, the mood for singing, now it's an extra layer of like, those I tend to do more. It's much easier when the words are memorized, you know, which it's hard because it's a lot of words. And sometimes if it's something new, a lot more repetitions, but the repetitions for that are different, because it's not to get it correct.
Right.
It's to find yourself where you belong in the intricacies of the beat. So then like I do it over and over. It's like, where do I do a bunch of takes and then see where I'm at?
Yeah. So dope. It's so dope.
Is it my turn?
Yes, it is.
Okay. This one is, I have to like read it out because this is like a, I don't know why I wrote so much, but okay. Okay. There is a trend of people on social media giving everyone advice now.
Wow.
Okay, right? About everything, health, whatever. But here, let's focus on music making and music advice coming from all these random people. Some are successful, some not so much, but they're always speaking with conviction, whether they know what they're talking about or not. Whatever they're talking about from their experience, but they take it as universal fact. We've talked about this idea of a well-oiled, intricate machine that is required for lasting success, right? There's so many elements that come into making this work. Yeah. That we've been individually working on for many years. And these one-off pieces of advice that people, they give people an idea that all they have to do is this one thing, and then they'll be successful or they'll be good, or like, you know, like, people are like, this is the secret. This is the trick.
Right,
this is whatever.
Right.
Okay, so whatever. What do you think are the biggest pieces required for this well-oiled machine to function as an independent musician or an independent music crew or company? Right? Because like now everybody's like, we don't need record labels. We can make it on our own. Right. And some people make it look, oh, it's so easy, not knowing that they actually have these huge teams and all this behind them. Like, what do you think are the main components for somebody who's like trying to make it as an independent musician? What ducks do you need to have in a row to have a lasting career that doesn't fall apart?
Yeah. First and foremost, head on your shoulders. You know, the experience that you go through, a lot of times will try to define who it is that you are. And if you don't have a head on your shoulders, you will not continue that. So like there is a consistency that I would say that you have to have, like along with that head on your shoulders, right? Now there's a certain amount of information that you specifically like want to have, not necessarily what everybody told you. You know what I'm saying, about the industry, but what you specifically have. Like, so for instance, like, and we've talked about this a little bit before, like the knowledge of like a bumblebee, you know what I'm saying, flying, you know what I mean? Like with the wings that it has, you know what I'm saying?
It's not supposed to be possible.
Right, you know what I'm saying? But it's happening, you feel me? And so that's, I'm not saying that everybody's going to be a miracle, but what I'm saying is that what you've been taught about miracles, you know what I'm saying? As well as like, you know, certain things in the music industry that you just don't do, you know what I'm saying? That they're not common. Yet this is very, very common. You know what I'm saying? So again, like having your own sense of self, you know what I'm saying, that you don't necessarily have to stray too much from, simply because you do have experience for yourself, you know what I'm saying, knowing that I can do this. You also have to have a practice, you know what I'm saying, and you have to practice. Like it is not like something that you can really truly escape. You know what I mean?
And not just to get there. Right. Once you're there, that's when people usually abandon it, because now they're a big deal.
Exactly.
You're going right back down because there's somebody behind you that is practicing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Once you have that practice and those kinds of things, I'm going to jump a little bit. Like in developing that, in your practice, you should be trying to develop a sound, like a specific sound, like that caters to you. And I don't necessarily mean like one sound, you know what I'm saying? Like I mean a sound that you just vibe with, that this something is like, okay, now I'm in my house, you know what I mean? And I could do whatever I want to in my house, you know what I mean? So that sound is gonna basically propel you, you know what I'm saying, to like the height of that sound, right? And so if you study those sounds, I mean, the sound that you're creating, what I would also mention is to like in your community, whether you go out to shows or you stay in the house, however, you know, depending on what has been happening or what is happening, listen to different types of music. You know what I'm saying? So like if you do rock or you do rap, you know what I'm saying? Listen to jazz, you know what I'm saying? Listen to pop, listen to funk, you know what I'm saying? But listen with like an intent to learn like what is actually happening, you know what I'm saying, behind what people are doing. You know what I'm saying? So now when if I have those things, and I would say that's like the core, you know what I mean? I would say that if you're gonna when you're taking this to the next step, like outside when it's talking about business wise, I would say have like fake conversations, you know what I'm saying, with your friends, you know what I mean, about different topics. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes like we get on a topic where it's like, what was the game that we played? Was it like random or something like this?
Yeah, random. It's a game that I made up.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is
should I explain this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, please.
Random. It's kind of what it sounds like. We were going back and forth and saying words, but whatever word I say, his has to be as random and far away from that word as possible.
Right.
Because if I say like red, but then he says strawberry, there's a very clear connection because strawberries are red.
Yeah.
You know, if I say red, he wants to say, we want him to say, even right now, I want him to say tractor, but no, not, because that's farming and strawberries. So not even that, like your brain automatically makes these connections and it wants you to either say the word that starts with the same letter or rhymes with it or something that's like, if I say pancakes, then you want to say cereal or another food, like your brain is just wired for that. And so like we were just doing this brain exercise, like how can I completely disregard what she said and say a word, where can I make my mind jump that as far as possible from red as possible. So what would you say? So
I would grasshopper. You know what I mean?
But, still strawberries grow in grass and grass. Exactly. Like you want it to be just like stupid, like gynecology.
Right.
And then that's like, and then like you respond with something completely like nautical suit. Whatever. Ooh, so we used to play this game and going back and forth and like, you don't realize how much your brain wants to make sense of things and create patterns. Yeah. So I don't know why I like that exercise and why I made it up, but like sometimes I just like to.
And I totally liken that to like the whole, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know what I mean? And these types of skills that you can kind of develop. So as somebody is talking and you want to get across who you are and what your sound is, like you can still be like in the mix of things, but present something totally different and not necessarily feel like, yo, I'm being outcasted or I will outcast myself. So I would say, like those types of games or even like just talking out fake scenarios and things like this. Yeah. Like I think that those really do help. And if you don't have the knack to do that, then you can do that very easily by way of just like, getting out to your community and going to a different place to eat, you know what I'm saying? And seeing how like they kind of greet you and how you greet them. So I would say that's some sort of skill that you can acquire as far as communicating to different types of people in different scenarios.
And something that we talk about, he started with head on your shoulders, but one thing that like, to me, that I was like really aware of and something we've talked about is character. Because there's this thing that's really popular and like there's a lot going on in the world and a lot of people who are hurt or victimized or whatever, you want to be like, I'm not depending on anybody. I will do this by myself. My circle is small. Like, just like this like You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, for this thing to work, it works so much better if you find people with on the same wavelength. Yeah. And they're there, but you have to, one, learn to recognize good people.
Exactly.
And good is one part, actually creative and talented is another, and finding that is very difficult. I've been looking my whole life, you know, but once you even find those people, that's not enough. You have to be that right type of person for them then.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Your character has to be solid, because so much of what's going on and why we are moving so fast and we're so successful is because Swam has this network, because people trust him, because he has not let them down in the past. They know he's solid. They know whatever they invest into this, he's not going to drop the ball.
Right.
So like, how many years does it take for you to develop a character that's solid? You know what I'm saying? They might not, they take whatever they think of me on his word. You probably think I'm God knows what, because he's been saying it and you trust him. And it's like, that's the type of character that you have to have. You have to be a good person, but hardworking, dependable, reliable, aware,
punctual,
and not. You have to have your emotions in check. Because if you want to turn everything then into a fight, or everything is like this, you know, a victim mindset or whatever, it's just like, that's very difficult to work with. You know, even like daily, we do observe people, because it's like, if we now get our, you know, the business side of things and the money side of things to a certain level where now we want to hire people or work with people, we're already looking now at like, who can we rely on? Who's going to get this responsibility and not completely chuck it because they don't know how to handle their emotions, or they don't know how to show up on time, or they won't show up at all. You know, it's like, these are things that are just like around you that you have to kind of, like, when I was a waitress, I worked with the same work ethic that I worked on music, even though I didn't always necessarily like care about, I worked at Starbucks for 3 years. Did I care about Starbucks that much? No, but I cared about my coworkers, and I cared about the people that came in, and I made a lot of lifelong friends.
Nice.
And I don't know how to be a shitty worker, because like it reflects on me. And it's like, those times I practiced those skills that now I'm using to make this move a lot faster, because now I'm reliable, I'm dependable, I'm punctual, and I'm open-minded. And I can see things from, you know, just like working with people, working customer service, like, you get jaded, but also you understand people, and this is all about people.
And even on to add on top of that, no, that's perfectly fine. Like, we do what we want, right?
We do what we want. I do what I want.
You know what I'm saying? But to add on top of that, like, there have been many times where, like, you know, if I was to do something and then it's like passing the ball, you know what I'm saying? Like, where she just knows exactly what to do with it. So being around those, like she said, the like-minded folks, like, and also that is another, you know what I'm saying, element. Like, being around those like-minded folks, and then you guys having some sort of business together, like, that person can take that ball further than, you know what I'm saying, than you did. And it allows the process.
You can't run it in 50 directions with 50 balls at the same time. You have to trust somebody to like keep this going. And yes, you check in, but and like I said, like this idea, you know, we try to keep ourselves safe by saying all these people are just going to hurt me and just keep people away. And it's like, there are a lot of those people, yes. However, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because like, I think we try to like, and that's something that Da Vinci talks about a lot through like the Zoom meetups and the Studio Sensei stuff. It's just like, we assume positive intent, right? We trust that you don't mean us harm. But when we see that you do,
yeah,
you're out of there, and you're not coming back, because we're so protective of this wonderful community we have, where we trust each other. Can somebody always kind of slip in? Sure, but there's so many of us that are very strong in this, in our character and what we know is right. We'll be like, that seems funny.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the basis. All of these things are the basis for what you would need in order to get, you know what I'm saying, where you're trying to go. Because that's what you're going to rely on. It's not going to be a certain formulaic, you know what I'm saying, amount of moves that you make, you know what I'm saying, that get you here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's people and vision and work ethic and practice.
Exactly.
And you know, like Da Vinci talks about flow.
Yep.
Not forcing things that are not supposed to be happening.
Yep.
Just simplify. And be who you are. Next question.
All right. So... your solo album that's coming out is called Labyrinthine.
Yes.
Now I have been wondering, because you use a lot of times, like you'll use in like your slogans and things like this, you know what I'm saying, searching through the Labyrinthine. You know, I want to know why Labyrinthine.
Labyrinthine and like wells, like deep wells and like tunnel systems. Those are things that like I really relate to when it comes to like getting lost in your mind. You know, that's why like when I said earlier about like the reading books to kind of snap myself out of going down these rabbit holes, like that's something that like I'm such an overthinker, and I can get lost there. And so like, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing, because it makes me, as long as I am able to occasionally pull out of there and kind of do that eagle eye zoom out kind of thing on how that fits in as far as society, and then outside of that, you know, the world, and outside of that, the universe, or whatever. Like, it's not, all my problems are not right here or right here.
Yeah.
Or even right here. They're just, you know, it's like, I get exhausted by like how much I think and process everything that's happening, and everything, you know, a lot of times adults, you know, we can see this just like in the country where they're introduced with an idea that doesn't fit what they've been taught. They like push away and panic, and they'll come up with any excuse to invalidate that. For me, I process it like, where does that fit in with everything else that I know? Because this seems true, so now I have to labyrinthine. Then you get lost in your head. But as long as you can also like pull out and rest and zoom out and kind of see like how does this, like, how do I live my life with this information while still maintaining my character, being a good person, not running away from things that are making me uncomfortable, you know? Because it's like there's tons of stuff that like makes sense to do with this current society that I don't think is a universal truth, but is required right now.
Yeah.
Because of how it's set up based on past things that happened. But I don't think this is the universal truth necessarily. But to find the balance, you know, so it's like my brain, it's a mess in there. And like, you know, the one book that I read, the mole people. Yeah, the mole people, about the people who live in all the underground tunnels of New York. You know, it's a great book, but it makes you kind of like think about stuff that goes on underneath, and then, you know, stuff above the first level of the street that you see the new stores and the shiny yoga studios, but then above that you see the old architecture. You know, it's just like you there's so much. Yeah. And so I rest a lot. Yeah. Yeah. And because of that, like this, if there's too much anxiety, I also have to work on my common sense. If I spend all of my energy spinning my wheels, like ruminating and whatever, and actually not making things with my hands, not making music, not making art, not dancing, not getting this walking, getting this energy out of me, I will sit there spinning wheels. Wow. So it's like labyrinthine tunnel system, underground wells. It's like you feel like you get stuck there, but also sometimes I have to be like, common sense. You've been spinning there for 3 days. And it's nice and warm, and you have your blankie and your coffee, and you could, but like 5 minutes, go take a walk, see what happens, just to snap yourself out of it. Wow. Wow. Anyway, I think there's another question. Yeah, that's dope. Okay, yeah, this is last question before we get to the IG one. But it's like, it's my favorite. Oh, that's what's up. I know one of the things that frustrates you is when people who have known you for a long time, this might be you, dismiss the work and effort you put in by saying, but you're a swam. Of course, but you're a swam. That's what you do. You can do that. Of course, that's easy to you. That comes easy to you. You're a swam. What is so frustrating about that? And what do you think, what do you wish those people understood better? Okay. First thing that was very frustrating about that is that, like, there is time, work, or work ethic, you know what I'm saying? Even experiences that go along with that, you know what I'm saying? Things that I've done specifically to, A, calm myself down. You know what I'm saying? So for instance, this could be going towards something that is like, oh man, you do this so well, like in the means of like, you communicate to these other people so well to get your point across, even when they've told you no at first. How are you so well versed in getting your point across? Well, again, like there'll be again that time, that effort, that work ethic, you know, and the experiences that went along with that tell me like, shit, am I good enough? You know what I'm saying? Can I really make this happen? And I will deal with those things, whether people, you know, see that or not. Like, I will deal with those things and practice those things. You know what I'm saying? Again and again and again. And in this world, you're kind of told like, yo, you need to be able to be as good as possible so that nobody has anything else to say but you're amazing. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? Undeniable. Right. Exactly. Exactly. So I feel like when I've accomplished that, you know what I'm saying, that at least, I mean, obviously, you know, you're not going to get a trophy or anything like this, but at least the friends that I feel that I know, you know what I'm saying, can look at me and not just be like, but you're a swam. They can be like, oh, he put in a lot of work to do that. And because that's my credit. Now, mind you, like, not to get too crazy with, you know what I'm saying, astrology, I'm an Aries. You know what I'm saying? I hear it a lot. I'm an Aries. So we do things very quick. We jump into things, you know what I'm saying? But that doesn't mean that we're not thinking, we're not putting a process to these things to make that happen. You know what I'm saying? Now, that confidence doesn't come just because it's there.
you got to work on those things. So as we've been working on those things for myself, you know what I mean? And I say we, because you got to be many different types of people to gain this. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I put in so much work in these different facets of who it is that I believe myself to be. I put myself in front of people and situations where like this shit can get rough. You know, I've had people put guns to my chest, to my face. You know what I'm saying? I've had that, but I won't necessarily show you that because that's not my end result. My end result is I got that yes. And I got that yes for myself. I got that yes for my group, for my circle, for you. You know what I'm saying? So the last thing I expect to hear from people who feel like they know me or I feel like knows me, you know what I'm saying, is, yeah, but you're a swamp.
Just disregard all that.
Nah, it don't work like that. You know what I'm saying? So
don't do it.
Yeah. So patience-wise, like, I feel like I wish what they would do is take a little bit of time before you come up with that blanket statement, you know what I'm saying? Or just follow the status quo, you know what I'm saying, as far as who you believe me to be. And maybe, you know, dive a little bit, maybe even ask me the question.
Right.
You know, as opposed to coming up with that assumption. Like, man, what exactly did you go through in order to get to this level?
Yeah.
And why are you so passionate about passing it on? Well, it's like the one biggest thing that I find, and this is also what I would like folks to know, you know what I'm saying, is like, first of all, I would like you to try certain things that, you know, that aren't necessarily the most comfortable for you so that we can relate, at least we can relate. You know what I'm saying? So that when I'm going through it or you're going through it, like we know exactly what it takes and we can look at each other like, yo, how much further did you get this week? You know what I mean? Like it could almost be a game, you know what I'm saying? Another game. It's like how much compliance did you get this week? You know what I mean? Or lastly, how good do you feel about yourself? You know what I'm saying? Like after you got all this rejection, you know, how good do you still feel about yourself? So for me personally, like that last thing, as far as like rejection, you know what I'm saying? Is it a fun thing to go through? Not all the time, you know what I'm saying? But if you get used to it, you know what I mean? It, again, like that outcome doesn't necessarily define who it is that you are or how it is that you're going to be taking it or should be taking that. You know what I mean? You are your own person and you got the final say so.
Yeah. And it's that thing that people kind of like disregard people who they know are strong to like believe they're all right. We don't have to worry about them. And then we know how that sometimes ends up, you know, whether that, you know, being somebody like Swam or, you know, a father figure who's always there for somebody, the mother figure or the single mother that's just like, wow, you're so strong. You get so much done. And these people just like, you're always there for everybody, assuming they're cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, And like, so you can see how passionate he is about that subject.
Yeah.
My thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way. It's like when somebody, you know, if I perform or do something and people say, wow, you still got it. I'm sorry. Did you assume that I would just slowly start deteriorating into my old age as opposed to like, I'm working on this craft consistently, and so I'm actually much better than the last time you saw me because I am much better than the last time you saw me. I don't still have it. I've surpassed that, and I keep working. It's like, you know, just like how we just like completely disregard our elders right now, or just, and it's like some of it is because our elders are, you know, they've been eating shit food all their life and are just like they're not getting exercise and you can see now the effects, you know, not having any brain exercises or stimulation, you know. That's why, like, yes, learn that new instrument when you're 50 or 60. Start learning the freaking piano, because these are all just like exercises that are going to keep your, when we're kids, you go to school and you're learning one subject is math, then it's geography, then it's music, then it's art, then it's French, then it's, volleyball, then it's, and it's like your mind has to skip from this to this, and then you're an adult and you do this one thing every day and you're not necessarily learning anything new. And it's just like, oh, it's because we're getting older. You're also not working your brain in any way, shape, or form, or your body. It's just like, I'm done.
Let them know.
Was there another question?
Let them know.
Was there a last question? Are we done?
Yeah, there's the IG question, right?
There's the IG. Okay. Yeah. That's right. So here's one question, and please feel free to submit more, and we'll be answering on our blog. So any questions, always mugsandpockets.com.
Booyaka shot.
So someone asked, how do you survive using creativity? And so I asked, do you mean how do you use creativity to survive, or how to survive this whole life experience when you are a creative person or like an artist? And they said, probably both. So do you have any advice on how to survive as an artist, or how to do that creatively?
Right.
Because life is hard and there's a lot going on, and especially creatives, we're very sensitive people, affected by a lot. How do you live?
You know what? Like, so there was definitely a way that I used to do that. And now that way has definitely changed since moving here to Seattle. And now I believe it has a great deal to do with, travel is one of them. And then you treat yourself. You have to treat yourself. You know what I'm saying? Go to that coffee shop, get the coffee you want, get the, the eats that you want, and treat yourself a lot more, and celebrate your victories. Don't let that type of stuff slide. Don't wait for somebody else to give you your props. You know what I'm saying? Get your props while you can to yourself. You know what I'm saying? And really, get into the vibe of being good to yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess there's something that I've been using for a very long time. And I told you this story before. And then once upon a time when I was still on Facebook, I remember posting something about that I was sick. And, I was just like coughing and sick for a long time. And one Facebook friend who has since passed away responded to me, look at the sky and drink in the blue. And to me, I was just kind of like, I'm not sure how that's going to help.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But it's something that like has stuck with me. And I often just look at and find that little piece of blue of the sky and like try to absorb it. And not just that, any like things that give me nostalgia, that make me think of like being a kid, things that make me feel like light. Flowers do that a lot for me when I'm just walking down the street and all of a sudden this gorgeous thing is blooming. Like, they say stop and smell the roses. Like for me, I stop and like kind of like absorb this little piece of beauty.
Oh, that's very true.
I stop all this.
It's very true.
And that, just stuff like that when, when I was little and you used to, I was in the middle of nowhere farm and it would snow all over everything. It would come out and it was just like, sun came out as like little diamonds because the snow was just like sparkling for miles, and you'd be just like, or like at night, starry night, and you could just see stars, and it's like goes on forever. Things like that make you kind of see like how grand things are. then you're not just kind of stuck in your head. Even sometimes for writing or for creativity, if you're stuck in your house, if you go to like their free museum days or gallery days, be in huge open spaces like, you know, forests and things like that, where you're just like, oh, I'm a very, very small part of this whole thing. That's just like awe-inspiring, things like that. Just like little things. I have memories of little things like that from my childhood, you know, remembering just random things, picking raspberries when I see sometimes raspberries and like they're actually the good kind that have some kind of flavor. Like it takes me back. And I think all those little things that are good and happy, taking the moment to absorb that, because we talk about trauma and we all talk about how hard everything is. And we have no problem dwelling in that and absorbing that. And I think like just constantly on this feedback loop of how do I heal myself? How do I fix myself? There's so much wrong with me. Remember like all the little drinking the blue. Yeah, just little things like that help me a lot. I think, and then I saw a post somewhere on IG and they somebody called those things glimmers. So like, you know, catch those glimmers. Yeah. Or like we have our thing called subtle sparkle. So when like the song is done, but it just needs a little something. Like the foundation's there, it's all done, but a little something. Call that the subtle sparkle. Sometimes I'll add just like one little layer of melody on top and you know, harmony or whatever. It's like that's the subtle sparkle. Like those things can take things from like normal or bearable or everyday to just be like, okay. And if you want to be an artist and passionate and like go towards your purpose, those are kind of the things that make you feel like, oh, yay. That's where you go. I think. I don't give advice. Don't take that as advice. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Lastly, sometimes, you know, I just want to mention that I actually juggle. You know,
he does juggle. There is a video on our IG of him juggling. Yeah.
And I like to pass the time or to like kind of get in my head like, this is how I manage things. The balls that I'm juggling become like the problems, and I'm just bam, you know.
Because that's the whole thing, get out of your head and into your body. So however, whatever that is that you're doing, you know, shake it out, walk, jump, whatever. Things gotta flow, okay? Things got to flow. So, okay, that's it.
All right, that was dope.
Thanks for that. That's a very long interview, but
I'm with it.
This is how we want to be interviewed. This was an example of how we want to be interviewed, asking questions that we are passionate about and that are that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Peace.